Hello. So in this video, I'm gonna explain the structure of Sherlock, and after this, I'm going to create chapters for every feature of Sherlock. So, I mean, if we have any doubt regarding any particular feature in future, we can just jump onto that particular video and then get clarified. Okay, so Sherlock is basically a software. It's a tool set. Which is used to scrape websites and try to get analysis. It tries to get I mean, it tries to analyze a given website and tries to create charts, graphs, and so many other nifty things. So basically, we are trying to explain the phase one of Sherlock here. Um, in this phase, we are not doing any visualization, text analysis, and other advanced features. As of now, in phase one, we are just restricting ourselves to running Scrapy and downloading the data and then pushing that data into the database. Okay, so let me explain the structure of Sherlock. So this is the top level directory of Sherlock. I'm connected to my Fedora desktop here through Windows, and as you can see, there are some files here in the top level directory. Init.py is just a placeholder wherein I mean, it doesn't do anything. If you were to import classes in your directory, you need to have this file. Okay, that file needs to be a 0 byte file. It does not need to have any content inside it. Readme.md, it is just a text file which came from GitHub. Basically, it just has a description of the, the project. And I mean, you can see this readme.md as soon as you go into GitHub. So I'm logged into GitHub right now, and if you go to Sherlock here, um, okay, here you see the readme.md. Okay, and you can put in as much content as possible here, and it will basically make our project more descriptive and easy to understand. Okay, so main.py is the main Python program which actually invokes the Sherlock. And I'm sorry, I think I messed up there. Main.py. Yeah. So in main.py, we before the actual crawling starts for any website, we need to make sure that we need to make sure that the following services and modules are installed because otherwise Sherlock won't be able to run on the target machine. So MongoDB is the database because we push in all the data into MongoDB, and we have to make sure that MongoDB is installed and as well as it is running in the background. PyMongo is the library which talks to MongoDB, and Scrapy, obviously, it is the module which helps us scraping the websites. And as you can see from Sherlock code or Sherlock requirements, import Sherlock requirements, this basically means that we have a directory here. Let me show you the directory structure. So Sherlock core is the package, and this package has all these other classes, and each of this class has a unique and very defined functionality. Okay, now let's go back to the main.py. Okay, main.py. Here, this line basically downloads a class called Sherlock requirements, and Sherlock requirements basically has this one single method called check Sherlock services. Now check Sherlock services, checks whether MongoDB is installed and running, PyMongo is installed, and Scrapy is installed. And it gets a Boolean value called installed modules. And we check the Boolean value here and make sure that it is true. Otherwise, basically, we are not doing anything here. If we find something that something is missing, we don't do anything here in this thing, because we take care of that problem inside the Sherlock requirements class itself. I'm going to show you that. Um, okay, so install modules, when install modules returns as true, we go to we download we import another class called Sherlock util. Sherlock util basically has all the utility methods like clearing the screen, um, and many other helper methods that might be useful for throughout the Sherlock code base. So instead of repeating ourselves everywhere, um, we kind of abstracted, we kind of refactored the code so that most of the common code goes into the Sherlock util. Now CLS is basically clear screen, and you will see this method being called in many other places. And the other being the other class that is getting imported is Sherlock config. Now Sherlock config is the main menu wherein you ask the user what does he want to do in Sherlock right now. Examples being, does he want to start a new project? Does he want to see the status of running projects, running crawls rather? Does he want to take notes? I mean, so on and so forth. Does he want to search? Does he want to browse the projects, crawled sessions, websites, so on and so forth? So we present a main menu to the user, and then we go on from there. So that's what this particular class is. Um, let me show you. Let me show you Sherlock requirements first. Sherlock code and Sherlock requirements. Yep. Okay. So the way we do it here is we have this dictionary called services. In services, we declare all the modules, services that are required for this particular project. Now, in future, we may have to increase we may have to add we may have to add extra modules and services that need to be running before we start Sherlock. So, yeah, as of now, we have one service, and we have one service, and then and we have two modules, Scrapy and PyMongo. Okay, this is the init method, which doesn't do anything. It just it returns. There's not much to say here. Okay, the Sherlock services. This is the main method which gets called from main.py, and red condition is the written condition. As of now, we are initializing it to true. This is the Boolean condition, by the way. Okay, and then we basically struck through the keys of dictionary, and then we check whether this particular method is whether this particular module or service is it a service or a module. I mean, whatever we are trying to check here, we check whether it's a service or a module. So depending upon that, we branch out to different parts of the code base. Now here, since this is a service, we have to check whether this service is running in the background. Okay, and since our target system is a Unix system, I mean it's a Linux system, so we issue PS and PS, and then we say we get all the services, and then we check whether the service itself is running or not. And similarly, we do the same thing for modules. We try to import the module here, and if the module is not present, we we print out an error and we return false. Okay. So that's about it. The other thing is, like, we are importing the sub process and the sys modules. No big deal. I mean, these are the built-in modules. We have not written these modules ourselves. So they come along with the Python distribution. And by the way, we are using Python 2.7 because Scrapy has a dependency on Python 2.7, and we are running on a 32-bit system. It's not a 64-bit system. Okay. um, Basically the and the architecture of the system should not be an issue here. Okay. But I mean, it could be 32-bit or it could be 64-bit. It doesn't matter. But although MongoDB does warn us that it's good if you have a 64-bit system instead of a 32-bit system, because it has some internal services which run really well if your system is a 64-bit system. Okay. Uh, Now that we have covered main.py, let's go to um, other files present in the top level directory. Okay, Sherlock checker. So what Sherlock checker does is basically it checks if any new crawl sites have been added in MongoDB. So what is a crawl site? A crawl site is nothing but a site that needs to be crawled. Okay. Now this site could be a standalone site. It could be a site which is connected to a project. Now, what is a project? A project is basically an entity which contains related websites for a given case. Okay, for example, you're trying to solve a case. Okay, now this case needs data from different sources, different websites. Now, you might be dealing with several cases here and there, right? So you might want to create a project for each and every case. Now, case A needs data from Yahoo, LinkedIn, Google, and any other websites which you are interested in, and which you think that might have a bearing on the case. So you create a project, and then you add all these sites that need to be crawled. Okay, it is as simple as that. Now, in some cases, you may not have any project. I mean, you may not you'll not be interested in any creating in any project. You just want to crawl a site. Okay, even that is possible with Sherlock. So what you do is basically you go to the main menu, and then you say a new project, and then I'm gonna show you all these things, by the way. So Sherlock can create a project with um, crawl sites. Okay, with crawl sites, and these crawl sites may not be related to a project. Okay, they can be independent. Okay, instead of creating a you just want to crawl a site. Okay, it's not related to any project at hand. So using Sherlock, uh, that kind of facility is available. Okay, I'm going to show you all these things. Okay, now so what is Sherlock checker? Sherlock checker basically looks at the crawl sites. There is a table called crawl sites, and these crawl sites have all the sites that need to be crawled, and these sites may or may not be related to a project. Okay, now it keeps a tab on these crawl sites, and as and when a new site gets added to this table, a MongoDB table, so it's gonna go and start crawling the site for you. Okay, and once it starts crawling the site, it puts all the relevant data of that particular site into the MongoDB. Okay, exactly how it does that, I'm going to explain to you later on, but this is what it does. Okay, so Sherlock model is the one single class which has all the database related code, all the MongoDB related code. You don't see PyMongo getting imported in all these other classes. Only Sherlock module imports PyMongo. Okay, and all the other classes which needs to talk to the database, like getting the data, putting the data inside the database, deleting or updating or whatnot, they all depend on Sherlock model. Okay, no other class actually talks to the MongoDB except Sherlock model. So which keeps the whole structure pretty easy to deal with and pretty easy to maintain as well. Okay, so I'm going to go in detail, in depth about Sherlock model later on, but this is what it does. I mean, by the way, this particular file is not complete yet. I'm going to add few more lines of code, and with that, it should be complete. But this is what it does. Okay, it just goes to those crawl sites and gets the sites that need to be crawled, and um, that and puts the data into the database. It actually depends on two other files to do the database insertion and all of that. And those two files are Sherlock Scrapy. Okay, Sherlock Scrapy is one of those two files. Okay, which the Sherlock checker depends on. Now, again, this is a very simple scraper, which is going to be modified later on. But what it does is it goes to a given website and accepts the depth limit, and then it scrapes the website till that particular depth. Okay, and as you can see, it is simply downloading the files and then writing the response bodies into those files. It's creating those files rather. It's not downloading, but it is creating those files. Um, okay. Now the last file here is Sherlock Content Inspector. Again, this is incomplete, but what it does is as soon as the file gets downloaded by Sherlock scraping, this particular class gets called and it does um, it, it processes that particular file. Okay, and when I say processing, what it does is it takes the file, it gets the data, it gets the text out of that HTML file, it analyzes that text, unique words, unique words in the text, so that it can create tags. Okay, and then it determines the file size and it determines the file type. It could be we are downloading JS files, CSS files, HTML files, um, JPEG files, all sorts of image files. So it could be anything. So when you want to diff between two sessions, two crawls of a given website, there could be changes in JPEG files, CSS files, JS files, and even HTML files. So when it comes to the HTML files, that is where the content is located, the text is located, right? So you wanna check the text between two crawls. Has it been changed or not? Of course, it's pretty hard to determine if any images are changed between two crawls because images do not have data. Images are images, right? So again, CSS files and JSS files, those are all technical in nature. So although they might show you the diff, it doesn't make much of a difference because it doesn't affect the way the text is getting shown to you, actual text, right? So what this particular content inspector does is it gets the tags here. We depend on NLTK here to get the unique keywords, n-grams, bigrams, trigrams, unigrams, and all of that. We get unique tags inside this text. The text is obviously coming from a HTML file, and then we we get the raw text as well. Okay, so this raw text is much more important when you want to see the diff. Okay, what was the original content, and then how the content changed in the next crawl, right? So we need to have the raw text as well. PID, and this is a call to the database. What we are trying to do is we are simply adding a page to the database. Okay, this page could be anything. It could be HTML page, a JS page, a CSS page, a image page. It could be anything. Now, JS and CSS and images, they're like they don't do they're not much useful as the text, right? Because the whole point of Sherlock is to make sure that we understand the text, and we try to see, has there been any changes, um, has there been any change in the text between two different crawls. Okay. Now, PID is the project ID, CSID is the crawl site ID, session ID is the session. Session is basically a table. Session page is again a different table. Okay, session is the master table. Session page is the slave table. Okay, so we pass the session ID as well. The crawl ID is for a given session. There will be one unique crawl for that particular page, right? So there could be many sessions and there could be many crawls. Okay, so um, so a given session will have always a crawl associated with that particular session. URL is the page URL. File name is the name of the file. It could be index.html, contact us.html, and all of that. File type is whether it's an image file, CSS file, JS file, and so on and so forth. File size is obviously like what is the size of the file. Now this is a an important metric, because if there is a diff, obviously there will be a file size. Okay. Um, Raw text is what is the raw text coming out of the HTML page. Now we get the raw text from this particular method. Of course, I have not added the code, but that's what it does. Now tags, again we get the tags from the get tags method here. Okay. So this completes the top level directory. Okay, now let's go into the Sherlock core. Now Sherlock core again has init.py. As I said, init.py doesn't contain anything. Okay, it basically allows us to import class in our folder. Okay, if you have created a file, and if this file has a class and you want to use this class inside your Python program, so you need to make sure that init.py exists inside the directory. Otherwise, Python doesn't allow you to import the files. Now, let's go step by step. Okay, the main menu resides in Sherlock config. Okay, now Sherlock config obviously downloads. It has to download all the other files, because it acts like a springboard, so that a user can be directed to different parts of the Sherlock toolset. Okay, Sherlock browser allows the user to browse any facet of Sherlock. It could be project, it could be sites, it could be sessions, it could be tags, labels, notes, and so on and so forth. Sherlock crawl allows the user to create a new project, add a new crawl site to an existing project, add a standalone crawl, and so on and so forth. Sherlock diff is a file, it's a class which allows us to diff two different, I mean, it just shows you what has changed between two sessions, two crawls, or two sessions of a given project. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference to get diff between two projects, right? Because a project is a unique, it's a unique artifact, and a project which is connected to one particular case will have no bearing with some other case. Okay, so Sherlock diff always shows you the diff between two sessions of a given website, or two crawls of a given website. It's only a display program, and if we can add diff functionality to show the diffs between the first crawl and maybe 10th crawl. or maybe 20th crawl. So that basically shows you the timeline of changes as well. So as of now, diff is being determined by Sherlock Content Inspector.py, which resides in the top level directory, and it always shows you the diff between two consecutive crawls. Okay. Sherlock Notes, it allows us to take notes for a given project, or rather, to put it differently, associate notes to a given project, and you can write as much notes as possible, okay, for a given project, because as and when new things arrive, um, inside a project. For example, new crawls, new information that has been um, crawled, and all of that. You may want to add nodes to reflect this particular condition. So Sherlock Notes helps us to do that. Sherlock Search is just a search engine for the entire Sherlock database, and you can search for project names, site names, tags, labels, the content that has been downloaded, file names, um, and divs, so many other things. Like whatever Sherlock is doing currently, you can basically have a pulse on Sherlock, and make sure that you can just understand like what Sherlock is doing, and um, has it downloaded any new content that is of interest to you. It's like a Google. It's like a mini Google for your Sherlock, um, database. And Sherlock status um, is basically a class which tells you what exactly is going on right now in Sherlock. So as and when new projects get added, you might want to increase or decrease the interval that is used to crawl websites. You could say that, okay, crawl all these websites once per day, or maybe once per every hour. Okay, if it's a dynamic website, you may want to increase the duration in which, or decrease the duration rather, decrease the duration in which you want to do the crawling. So um, so Sherlock status will tell you like how many crawls are currently going on right now. I mean, which projects, which crawl sites are being crawled right now. Sherlock util, as I told you earlier, it's just a bunch of helper methods that are being used throughout the Sherlock code base. Now, this is basically a main menu, which allows user to go into different directions with regards to Sherlock toolset. You can say new crawl, show the status of running crawls. As you can see, all these menu choices reflect the classes that we have imported there. Search, take notes, browse projects and sessions, and so on and so forth. And this is just basically a if-else ladder, and depending upon the choice that we have selected, we go into different directions. I mean, basically, we instantiate objects for these classes that we have downloaded, and then we call upon the methods of these objects. Like for example, if you look at Sherlock browser here, we have created a object called browse object, and then we call the browser object browser method inside this object. Um, so that's what Sherlock config does. Now let's go to Sherlock crawl. Okay. Okay, so Sherlock Call is basically again a menu-driven class wherein it asks you what kind of crawling you want to do. So the options in this class are new project, new crawl for an existing project, standalone crawl, or return to main menu, or exit. So when I say new project, a new project needs a name. It needs a list of sites that need to be crawled, and depth depth for which each of the site needs to be crawled into, and so on and so forth. So a new crawl for an existing project. oftentimes you might realize that, okay, for this particular case, you might be interested in crawling site B as well. Um, Site B as well. Initially, you might have added site A, but later on, maybe after 2 days or a day or two, whatever that is, whatever the duration is, you might realize that um, site B also needs to be crawled to have a very complete opinion about the given case. Right. So you can always do that. You can always add a new crawl, uh, add a new site that needs to be crawled. When I say crawl site, they are like interchangeable. Okay. A standalone crawl, let's say you don't, there is no project on hand. You just want to crawl a site. Okay, you don't want to be bothered about creating a new project and then adding this site to this project and all of that. So you just want to crawl the site. Okay, you can always do that. But the catch here is that the project ultimately gets created by Sherlock. Okay, there is no such thing as a standalone crawl, standalone site, or something like that. So any site needs to be associated with the project. Whether you create the project or Sherlock create the project is something, it's immaterial. But a project needs to be created. Okay, when you choose a standalone crawl, the project is in turn created by Sherlock. Of course, there will be a descriptive name given by Sherlock, but it is just an extra step that Sherlock takes care of, so that you don't have to be bothered about that. Okay, so depending upon the choice that you have selected, we again branch out to various parts of the code base. So if you select new project, we go to the new project method here, and if you take if you want to add a new crawl to an existing project, we go here, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna demo all these things to you. Okay, so let's go to let's see if there are any other classes that we need to check out. um, Sherlock browser. Okay, Sherlock browser. So Sherlock browser is again, it asks you what kind of browsing you want to do. So basically, um, when you say browsing, you're obviously interested in one particular aspect, one particular. You are trying to answer a question, right? You want to see one particular object and try to get meaning out of that particular object. Try to see um, if that particular object has changed or not, and all of that. So, for example, even if you were to do a search, Google search, you're always after answers to a question, right? So, so that is what this browser does too. Um, so we ask all these things to the user. So basically, we ask him what kind of which project does he want to go get into. So we get all the projects. We get all the projects that Sherlock has in the database, and then we ask him the project ID, and for that particular project, what does the user want to do? So we ask him all these things, like we present a menu, and then we're going to ask him what does he want to do. So the choices are uh, project nodes. Uh, Project nodes are basically the nodes that you have added for a given project, and it goes on, right? So um, initially you may not have any nodes, but as and when crawling gets um, intensive, there will be lots of scope to add nodes for the project. So you may want to see all the nodes for that project. So project nodes helps you to do that. Sites that comprise this project. Again, initially you might have added only one site, but later on you might have added several sites to this project, right? So at any given point in time, um, at any given point in time, um, we, we would like to see what how many sites are there in this project and what each site does. So this option helps us to determine the um, it helps us to know the sites. Sessions of the crawl site. Now sessions are basically like, um, there could be they are like crawling sessions. Like on a given day, there could be only one crawled session, right? But if it's a uh, dynamic website, there could be several sessions, right? You will increase you will increase the duration. I mean, sorry, you will decrease the duration in which you're crawling the websites. So um, so uh, crawling the sessions of a given website is particularly helpful. Um, so this choice helps us to do that. Okay, fine. So fine. Diffs of the session. So diffs of the session is basically what has changed between two sessions. So this particular option helps us to get to see the sessions and also the diffs between those two sessions. Okay, tags and labels for this project. There could be several tags and labels for a given project. Now, tags are something that are automatically determined by the program, but labels are something that you as a user will assign to a given project. You can assign a label to a project or a session or a website. I mean, to any artifact inside a project. Okay, so return to projects menu. Obviously, whatever whichever path you have taken to get to this particular menu, you can go back to that particular path by selecting this option, return to the projects menu. You basically go to the uh, parent menu using this option, and return to main menu obviously does the same thing. Um, and I guess that's it. That's what Sherlock browser does. Okay, so let's see other files. Sherlock config, Sherlock dev is yet to be created because we don't have any crawled sites yet. Sherlock model is a very big database layer which acts as a bridge between the front end as well as the back end. And this gets used by Sherlock Content Inspector, Sherlock Checker. Okay. Now, in it is self-explanatory. Destroy, same thing. Get project. Basically, we have several collections inside MongoDB. Projects happens to be one of them. So in this method we basically get all the projects inside MongoDB. Show notes for a project. So wherever project ID gets passed in, we check whether that particular project exists or not. So this is just a um, um, just to be safe side. It's a good practice to always check for the existence of a project. Okay. Now that's what we do. Wherever we are passing the IDs, we always check for the existence of that particular records inside the database. Show notes for a project is a method which gets all the notes for a given project. Add session page. Now I explained to you earlier inside the Sherlock Content Inspector.py that script adds takes advantage of this method. In fact, I would say that is the only of file script which uses this method. Okay, and it adds the metadata for a given page, like for example, file name, file type, file size, raw text, what are the tags for the inside that unique tags inside that particular HTML file or text file, or so on and so forth. Now this is not yet done, but we're almost there. We can as soon as the scrapey part of Sherlock scrapey is done, these guys will be complete too. Add session. Add session is same thing. Like Sherlock Checker program is the one which adds a session um, to the database. Before we crawl any website, we add a session for that particular website um, via this method. Okay. Now, as soon as the website gets added um, to a sessions table, now there are two tables related to sessions and session pages. Sessions are basically the uh, top level information for a crawled website. Name of the website, project ID, session ID, and the status of that particular session. I could be crawling for a website, or the crawling could have been completed, or I could be processing for that particular website. Processing happens when the website gets downloaded. Okay, so it's an intermediate step, or there could be an error while crawling that particular website. So sessions is the table which gives you this high level information. Session pages is like a child table for this sessions master table. So session pages contains the individual uh, uh, records for a given website. When I say record, it directly maps to a file. The file could be a JPEG file, CSS file, JS file, HTML file, any file that can be downloaded. Okay, it's called as the session page. Now that downloaded page can be HTML file, JPEG file, and so on and so forth. When it's a HTML file or even a text file, XML file, I mean wherever you see text, okay, except the JS and CSS, there's a meaning inside inside those files, right? So we try to capture that information using unique tag names and the text itself, and also the def information. Previously, we would have crawled this page. Let's say yesterday we would have crawled this page. Now, what happened today? Has there been any change in this page? If so, what is the def? Okay, from today's text when compared to today's text with the yesterday's text. Okay, so that kind of information, that kind of drill down information is present in session pages. Okay. Add notes. Add notes helps us to take notes for a project, and get sites for a project. For a given project, get me all the websites related to that particular project. Get sites for all projects. Now, this might be helpful. I mean, not might, I would say. I'm sorry. This is helpful for the Sherlock Checker program. So Sherlock Checker program always uh, gets a dump of the list of websites, okay, inside the database. Now we are not bothered about the projects themselves because the projects are basically a grouping of the websites. So it is the websites, it is the websites, it is that set of websites which is much more important, right? So as and when a new project gets added, obviously the websites also get added as part of that project. So we don't have to check for the project because project might remain same, but the sites might get added, deleted, and so on and so forth. So if we look at the sites table, crawl sites table, that should be enough. Okay. So Sherlock Checker compares like how many websites have been added, and it always compares that with the last crawled information. When I say crawled information, basically it would have taken the same information yesterday also. So it compares that information with today's information, and if there has been any change, like for example, a new site has been added, so it goes ahead and start. In fact, it starts crawling all the websites. Okay, so um, if there are any existing websites, so basically we are incrementing the crawl counters of those websites, right? So for example, yesterday we would have crawled the same website, but today the crawl counter gets incremented because this is the second crawl for that particular website. But if there is a new website, the crawl counter starts at 1 because this is the first crawled. This is the first crawl for that particular website. Um, get crawl statuses. This gets called by the show the running status of all the crawls. For a given project, we can say that for a given project, just show me the crawl status. So that is useful. That is given out by this method. Get sessions for a project. Like what are the existing sessions? How many crawled sessions are present for a given project? Now, as you can see, there is no meat inside these methods, these three methods, because we have not yet crawled any website yet. So as and when we start crawling, we can add some information here. Get diffs for a project, same thing. They just like we get sites for a given project or nodes for a given project, we can also get diffs for a given project. Now, diffs are present in session pages, right? So we get all the diffs for a given project from that table. Okay. Get tags and labels for a project, and this is the same thing. We try to get tags and labels. Remember, tags are something which are automatically determined by the Sherlock program using an LTK, and labels are something that you as a user will assign a label to a given artifact. Artifact could be a session, crawl, site, project, um, could be anything, anything that you can think of. So we we get the tags and label information in this particular method. Okay, and this might be useful in searching um, for a given tag or label as well. Okay, get project details. Now, when I say project details, it could be the sites, it could be the sessions, so on and so forth. But for the time being, we are getting only the sites. For a given project, we are only getting the sites. Add project. This is the first method which gets called because unless a project gets created, nothing gets created. So there is no site, there is no session, there is no crawl, there is nothing else. So add project is the first method which gets called, and it adds all this information for a given project. It adds the project name itself, and then it adds the sites that need to be crawled. Now, when you are adding when you are adding a crawl site, um, it could be for a given project, or it could be a standalone crawl as well. So if it's a standalone crawl, Sherlock creates its own project and assigns that project to this particular crawl site. But if it is an existing project, if you're trying to add a crawl site to an existing project, that particular information is gotten from this particular flag is existing project. Now, add project is a method which gets called in the Sherlock crawl. Okay, so Sherlock crawl tells you whether, depending upon the user's choice, it tells you um, whether this is an existing project or a new project. Let me show you where exactly that happens. Okay, so let's go to a new crawl. Okay, look at this line 181. So in 181, you see the existing project flag is false. Okay, so there is no existing project if it's a new project, obviously, right? So let's go to uh, new crawl for an existing project. Now look at this one, line number 134. So here we are saying true. So that means the project exists. Do not create a new project. The reason why we are doing all these things is project names are not unique. You can have the same project name repeated over and over because case could be case could have a lot of similarities. And project is nothing. It is just a grouping of sites that need to be crawled. Other than that, it doesn't have any other bearing on how Sherlock actually works. Okay. Okay. So let's go to add project. Okay. So add project happens to be the last method inside this Sherlock model dot py, and yeah. So let's go to the directory Sherlock 4. Yep, Sherlock search is not yet done. Sherlock status is not yet done. Sherlock util is just a grouping of helper methods. As of now, there are only two helper methods, but it's going to increase its size. Okay, as and when I see any new functionality that is, uh, as and when I see any functionality that is getting duplicated across code base, I can just pull it over into Sherlock util and then use it from there. Sherlock requirements. Um, this is a very simple. I think that we have already been through this. Sherlock notes. Basically, it just takes a free-form text and associates that text to a given project. Okay, so this basically completes the structure of Sherlock. And I'm not going into MongoDB because that is pretty much self-explanatory. We don't have to do much in MongoDB. As and when a need arises to go deeper inside the code and to explain how exactly it works, I'll definitely go inside the MongoDB. Okay. So, but for now, this completes the structure of Sherlock.